Hello everyone, welcome to the daily current affair analysis from Veranda IAS. Today we are going to see some of the important current affair topic from the day of 20th of June 2023. Moving on to the topics of the day. First of all, we'll be discussing about some of the important questions from the 2023 prelims, and we'll be discussing the answers of those kind of questions. After that, we'll be moving on to the topic refugees as assets to their new countries, which is an editorial analysis which can be mapped to GS3 economic development human resources. Then we'll be discussing about the United Nations High Seas Treaty, which can be mapped to GS2 international relations. And after that, we'll be seeing about INS KIRPAN, which can be mapped to GS3 defense and security. Moving on to the prelims 2023 previous year question discussion. Let us see the question. With reference to ancient Indian history, consider the following pairs. Literary work and author. Devi Chandragupta Bilana, Hamira Mahakavya Naya Chandrasuri, Milinda Panno, Nagarjuna, Nidhi Vakyamitra, Somadeva Suri. How many of the above pairs are correctly matched, which is a question being asked from the subject of art and culture. Let us see the options. Only one, only two, only three, and all four. So it have been asked which all pairs are correctly matched. Okay, so we need to find the correct pairs. So here you should understand that the Sanskrit play Devi Chandraguptam, it is written by Vishagadeva, or as we call him as Vishagadatta. Okay, it is not written by Bilana, it is written by Vishagadatta. Okay, Ramagupta. So now let us see what is a general storyline of the literary work of Devi Chandragupta. So Ramagupta, who is a Gupta king, he decides to hand over his queen Dhruva Devi to a Shaka invader. But his younger brother, who is very famous, the Chandragupta, he sneaks into the enemy camp dressed as a queen, and he kills the enemy then and there itself. So this is a storyline of the Devi Chandragupta, but it is written by Vishakadatta. Okay. Second one, we can see the Jain scholar Naya Chandrasuri's work is an Indian Sanskrit epic poem called as Hamira Mahakavya. So this pair is actually correct. It is written in the 15th century. It is a fabled account of the life of the Chahamana king Hamira in the 13th century. Hamira Mahakavya. So it is based on a work of Hamira. Then comes the Pali Buddhist text by Nagasena, who is also known as Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna is also known as Nagasena. Okay. Nagasena or Nagarjuna's work is called as Milinda Panno. It is actually a Buddhist text which is written in Pali, and it is actually considered or regarded as belonging to the Theravada Buddhist tradition and is called as Milinda Panno, which like in English it means questions of King Milinda or the debate of King Milinda. Milinda Panno means questions of King Milinda or the debate of King Milinda. So what is that? It is actually a conversation that is happening between the Buddhist monk Nagasena or Nagarjuna and the Indo-Greek king called as Menander I. So when you learn the ancient Indian history, you will get to know that Menander I is actually very important. The Indo-Greek coming in the post-Mauryan period, who patronized this kind of Buddhism. Then comes the fourth option. The South Indian Jain monk called as Somadeva Suri. He lived in the 10th century AD. And another work, and one of the most important work by Somadeva Suri is a treatise on the statecraft known as Niti Kavya Mitram. Niti Kavya Mitra or Niti Kavya Mitram, written by Somadeva Suri, which means the nectar of the science of polity. Niti means Niti Kavya Amrita. Niti Kavyamritam, the nectar of the science of polity. So in this Niti Kavyamritam, Somadeva is identified as the author of the literary work called as Yashastilaka, which is also another important Jain textbook called as Yashastilaka. Okay, Yashastilaka. So from this book, we can identify that Somadeva Suri himself is the author of this book called as Yashastilaka, which is in 10th century. So what is the correct answer to this question? 2, 3 and 4th options or pairs are correct. So only 3. 3 options are correctly matched. Moving on to the first topic, which is an editorial analysis. Refugees as assets to their new countries. So we always see these kind of refugee crisis which is happening. And most importantly, why we are discussing this topic in the editorial is because of the World Refugee Day, that is on June 20. So June 20 is celebrated as a World Refugee Day, and almost all the countries, because of different scenarios happening in the world, have to take up this kind of refugee. In the one of the previous daily current affairs analysis also, we discussed about what is India's stand on refugee crisis, and did we participate in this kind of refugee? So please do have a read about it. And today, on a mains perspective, we'll be discussing about whether the refugees can be considered as an assets to their new countries. So we honor the courage and resilience of 103 million individuals who have endured forced displacement because of different conflicts and also unrest worldwide, and that is why we celebrate, we honor this their sacrifice by calling it as a World Refugee Day, that is June 20th. So these staggering figures mask countless human stories. It is marked by loss and shattered dreams. Now let us see what is the importance of the day. So this day is a reminder of our collective responsibility as global citizens, and also a call for engagement as well as for empathy. So this is a day to promote solidarity between communities, and also most importantly to reflect on the importance of welcoming refugees and also displaced persons into our communities. So this kind of a global conflicts, which includes ongoing war in Ukraine, then the crisis which is happening in Myanmar and Sudan, among others. So all these kind of events, which is or conflicts which is happening, like the protracted situations in Afghanistan and Somalia present the unprecedented challenges. Sadly, we can see South and the Southeast Asia are not immune to this challenge of self-replacement, whereas we can see India is home to some of about 250,000 refugees or forcibly displaced persons, with women and children constituting half of that population. So India continues still to graciously host and assess these refugees and asylum seekers within its territory, which is a testament to our shared humanity. So refugees want opportunities and not handouts. So this is the main crux of the today's editor. That is, we need some kind of opportunities being given or granted to the refugees to to help them climb up the ladders of challenges in the society. And it is not like handouts or just kind of a verbal promises are not enough for them to come up. So for refugee youth, it is not just a matter of talent, it is a matter of prospects. That is, they want opportunities and not just any kind of a verbal promises or handouts. So they wish to be self-reliant and are eager to use their talents and passions to contribute to the communities hosting them. So whichever is the society hosting them, we can see a lot of these refugees coming are youth people. So the youth have got the immense potential, and India is going to be one of the most powerful developed nations in the world in the coming 20 years, because of that window period where the whole working population of India will be the youth. So we can see even the refugees, the youth among the refugees can also be mobilized, and the potential can be utilized for our own your purpose. So we can all do more to give them hope as well as opportunities while they are away from their own home, where they are forced to flee from their homes. Dismantling the barriers. So these refugees and asylum seekers encounter a lot of obstacles. What are they? Legal recognition. They should get some legal recognition. They should be able to face some challenges in obtaining government issued documents, which hinder their access to essential services, including that of financial support and healthcare. It is incumbent upon us to dismantle these barriers and also to ensure that they are afforded equal opportunities in employment, education, housing, and also even in healthcare. So our efforts itself is in creating an inclusive society, and it must cater to the unique needs of the refugee youth. So to ensure that truly no one is left behind, we should engage with and include youth, especially refugee youth, in the realization of our sustainable development agenda. We have a sustainable development goals, right? So in order to have this kind of a sustainable development goal to be fulfilled, we have to utilize the potential of the youth. So addressing the rising number of these displaced refugees or asylum seekers, it is an urgent moral imperative that demands our collective action. So the Global Compact on Refugees, they clearly acknowledges the magnitude of the displacement crisis, and also they calls for solidarity through a whole of society approach. So you should understand that the author who is also writing is a part of the United Nations Commission for Refugee Commission. So it is built on the understanding that the responsibility towards the refugees is not limited to governments, but it also extends to each one of us, including individuals, private sector, non-government organizations or NGOs, and also community-based organizations. They also recognize that global south is disproportionately affected and that host communities need different assistance. So how can we conclude this topic? So you should understand that it is a very critical moment in our lifetimes when we have the power to shape future generations. So we have to take up that initiative. Invite individuals, we should invite private sector and also different governments to do their part in supporting the youth from refugee and also make them beneficial for the host communities. And together we can truly ensure the government of India's vision of Vikasit Yuva Vikasit Bharat, which is being really realized. So these kind of quotes are very, very important because when you're writing this kind of main answers or in essays, you can use these quotes because it will carry more weightage as such. So Vikasit Yuva Vikasit Bharat. So such kind of things are a motto prescribed by the government itself. So as an aspiring bureaucrat, it is very much important for us to include such kind of a quotations in our answer writing. Okay, moving on to the next topic. United Nations High Seas Treaty. Let us see the context. So the world's first international treaty to protect the high seas was recently adopted by the United Nations. Why this is in news? So nearly 200 nations signed the document, which is officially known as the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Treaty, after agreeing to its terms in March following roughly 15 years of discussion. That is, they are now signing the treaty to protect the biodiversity beyond a particular nation jurisdiction in the higher seas. So the treaty is meant to prevent a cascading of species extinctions brought on by overfishing, oil extraction, deep sea mining, and other activities with a lot of environmental impact occurring in the high sea. So we can see that the Coast Guard will be protecting those particular sea area which is under the national jurisdiction. So who is going to protect the international sea borders or sea waters or the high seas? So such kind of an areas like this is a treaty which is intended to protect the biodiversity and also to eradicate the environmental impacts which was being caused because of the all these kind of oil extractions or the different malice activities happening in the higher seas. Now let us see about UN High Seas Treaty. So this is the first ever treaty to protect the world's oceans that lie outside the national boundaries and is known as a Paris Agreement for the ocean. So this is a legally binding treaty which aims at protecting, also which aims at caring for and ensuring the responsible use of the marine environment. So these words are very, very important, okay, for writing. Responsible use, sustainable use. So such kind of keywords have to be included in your mains answer writing. Please keep a note of it. Then maintaining the integrity of ocean ecosystem and also conserving the inherent value of the marine biological diversity. So these all can be said as a goals of this Paris Agreement for the ocean. So this treaty is built on the legacy of UN Convention on the Law of the Seas or UNCLOS, which is the last international agreement on ocean protection, which is signed 40 years ago in 1982, and UNCLOS established an area called the high seas. So now let us see what is the highlights of this treaty. So this is a very static portion, but do revise it. It aims to place 30% of the seas into protected areas by 2030, which is a pledge made by countries at the UN Biodiversity Conference in 2020. What is that? To place 30% of the seas into protected areas. Then it will provide a legal framework for establishing vast marine protected areas. Marine protected areas are called as MPAs to protect against the loss of wildlife and also to share out genetic resources of the high seas. It also covers environmental assessments to evaluate the potential damage of commercial activities such as deep sea mining. So the treaty, it always aims at strengthening the resilience and also have different provisions based on the polluter pays principle as well as mechanism for disputes. That means if one particular oil transporting ship is making some kind of pollution in the water, they have to pay the price for it. Or if one particular nation is on an upper hand because of their developmental activities in polluting the ocean or in the high seas, it is there they have to pay more or they have to bear the cost for the sustainable development of those particular areas. So the treaty offers guidance, including through an integrated approach to ocean management that builds ecosystem, its resilience to tackle the adverse effects of climate change, ocean acidification, and also to maintain and restore the ecosystem integrity, including carbon cycling services. Not only that, this treaty provisions also recognize the rights and traditional knowledge of indigenous peoples and local communities, the freedom of scientific research, and also the need for the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits. It also considers the special circumstances facing small island and also landlocked developed nations. This will establish a conference of the parties called a COP, which will meet periodically and enable member states to be held to account on issues such as governance and biodiversity. And it also includes a pledge by signatories to share ocean resources for further development. So we often repeated the use of high seas. So what are these high seas? So the high seas begin at the border of countries' exclusive economic zone called as EEZ, which extends up to 370 kilometers or 200 nautical miles from the coastlines. So after that point, the seas are under the jurisdiction of no country. We can say that international water boundaries, and all countries have a right to fish, ship, and also to do the research, where all this kind of oil extraction, deep sea mining happened, because of which a lot of environmental impact and also extinction of species does happen. So they make up more than 60% of the world's ocean by the surface area, and activities on these high seas are often unregulated, and there is no one to monitor, insufficiently monitored, leaving them vulnerable to further exploitation. So that was all about the high seas, and also about about the treaty called as UN High Seas Treaty, which is very important for the prelims also. Now let us see about INS KIRPAN. What is the context? So recently India gifted the corvette INS KIRPAN to Vietnam to enhance that country's naval capabilities. So now let us see about INS KIRPAN. So what is INS KIRPAN? It is an indigenously developed built-in service missile. And also it is a Kukri class missile corvette commissioned into the Navy on January 12. Okay. On January 12, 1991. So what is this Kukri class missile? It is, these are the class, missile corvette. So you have to pronounce it a Kukri class missile corvette. It's not a missile, it's a ship. So Kukri class missile corvette, this is a class which is designed or assembled in India, which is equipped with the diesel engines and assembled in India. That is how we can define it. And also it has a displacing capacity of close to 1,400 tons and capable of a speed of more than 25 knots. And the ship is fitted with a medium range gun, 30 mm close range gun, shaft launchers, and surface to surface missiles are also being provided. It performs a wide variety of roles including coastal and offshore patrol, coastal security, surface warfare, anti-piracy and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations. So these are the importance of INS KIRPAN. And also in some part of the world, Now let us see for the questions of the day. So which of the following statements is true regarding INS KIRPAN? Option A, INS KIRPAN is a submarine of the Indian Navy. INS KIRPAN is an indigenous aircraft carrier of the Indian Navy. INS KIRPAN is a stealth frigate of the Indian Navy. INS KIRPAN is a missile corvette of the Indian Navy. So we have already seen it is a missile corvette of the Indian Navy, Kurki class, a missile corvette of the Indian Navy. So the right answer is option D. So with that, we have come to the conclusion of today's daily current affair analysis. So unless and until we meet next time, this is Prince J signing off. Thank you.